Welcome to Minor League on 99.94. We're here to talk about the Atlantic Conference Final, where the Atlanta Fire beat the New Jersey Stallions. I'm Jarrod Kimber, your host. With me is former New Zealand Into the Wind stalwart who once sent Ricky Ponting off in a test match. That's Iain O'Brien. And also here is the former knife salesman turned all things USA cricket, the writer for ESPN Cricket Info, podcaster at Stars and Stripes, photographer to the stars, quite literally a man of many hats, though usually he wears a stinky old one. It's Peter Della Penna. Thank you, gentlemen, and let us go straight to the game before you have any chance to talk about those intros. I've now, of course, lost my notes. PDP, I think coming in, the big question was, Atlanta Fire had no Rakeem Cornwall. It's a hell of a hole to fill, metaphorically and literally. How do you actually do that? And they come out and smash 200. Job done.
Well, in the previous meetings between these sides, they also didn't have Stephen Taylor or Aaron Jones. And Aaron Jones in particular showed what a difference he makes coming back into the lineup, the USA vice captain. And Stephen Taylor got off to a hot start, didn't carry it on, but did well enough at the top in the power play, utilizing the first 5 overs alongside Zane Syed, and then comes out with the ball and takes a couple wickets as well. So you add a former USA captain, and you add the current vice captain, who together are the backbone of the USA batting order when they've been playing for USA, including the recent tour of Scotland. And they showcased exactly what an impact they can make in their performances in a win for the Fire today to put them into the final.
I think, Iain, one thing that we thought from the first game was that this was a terrible pitch to score runs on. And then Stephen Taylor and Zane Syed came out, and suddenly it looks a much friendlier pitch to score runs on, and they were slapping them everywhere. And, you know, I was starting to ask if someone had changed the pitch on us, or if that little bit of rain that PDP told us would never come had changed the surface, or what was going on. But the openers certainly came out and slapped it everywhere, didn't they?
I think terrible pitch to score runs on is a little hyperbole, but it was a tough pitch to score runs on if you bowled well. And the New Jersey Stallions didn't bowl well. They did everything against what worked in the first semi-final. They did everything that they did everything not done in the first semi-final. They bowled full. It was, instead of using off speeds, instead of using your changes of pace, your slow balls right the way through, which we saw in the first semi-final, the Stallions just stayed true as if they're bowling on a quick, bouncy grass wicket. It wasn't that way, and it wasn't until almost the 18th over that we saw any sort of consistency in slow balls. It made it a lot easier. There was, again, some indifferent batting, indifferent bowling, some wonderful batting, but the New Jersey Stallions only have themselves to blame for that one.
PDP, Aaron Jones, I've never seen a person so happy to hit sixes. I've never seen a person so happy to see Jamar Hamilton. I've never seen a person so happy. He smiled all his way through this. As you say, vice captain of the USA team. I thought it's easy to praise him when he starts hitting sixes. Some of his batting early on, the way he manipulated the field, the way that he handled when he had a couple of dot balls, all these sorts of things. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful innings. And it certainly, you know, he was an anchor, but he was still scoring at a decent rate all the way through that.
Well, and the surprising thing about this innings is that it goes against type in a lot of ways for him. If you saw him in Zimbabwe at the T20 World Cup qualifier, he struggled mightily. He's somebody who takes a long time to get started. He's an outstanding 50-over batter because it usually takes him 40 or 50 balls to get set. He'll score 20 off 40 balls, and then his next 40 balls, he'll score to run a ball. So he'll be 20 off 40, and then he'll be 60 off 80, and he becomes very efficient. And the longer he stays at the crease, he gets into the 45th, 50th over, and then he can go big like he did today. He doesn't really do that often in 2020 cricket. He struggles to kind of find that rhythm and to really judge when he should be going off and when he should be going big. When he clearly showed he's got that with him. It's not that he's incapable or he's incompetent and he's unable to hit sixes. He's just at times unwilling. He just refuses to do it, even though he showed in the 18th, 19th, and 20th over, he's got that well within his range of shots. His bread and butter game, though, is what you saw earlier, where he's the fastest runner between the wickets for USA. So he's always running quick twos. You'll never see anybody run more twos in the USA national team than Aaron Jones because he's so good at finding gaps at his height, at his stature. He's very good square of the wicket, so he's always picking off twos through square leg, through backward square, through fine leg, through mid-wicket. If mid-wicket is vacant in the ring, he'll just get onto the back foot and just kind of flick through mid-wicket and just speed a two. That's his bread and butter. You rarely see him go bonkers like he did hitting sixes. And when you see the way he did it today, you wonder to yourself, why the hell doesn't he do this more often?
Jamar Hamilton, IOB, certainly a little bit more of a six-hitter in physique and attitude. Started slow, though, and then when he caught up, went completely nuts and looked like he was trying to hit every ball for six at the end. But I thought that was a really good innings as well.
He was 30 runs behind Jones when he came in. So Jones was on 30 when Hamilton came in, and they only finished sort of 20 runs apart. It wasn't a catch-up innings. They were both very unmemorable parts of that partnership, the biggest partnership of the day. And there were a lot of it that just sort of went by, but they were accumulating. They weren't missing out. There were plenty of still double-figure overs without any real highlights. And then we got to see the highlights. Once I think Hamilton was sort of 30, somewhere around 30. That's when he went down. We saw that change of impetus. And then Jones sort of post 40. I think he went from 30 to 45 without even facing a ball in terms of nothing memorable. I can't even remember those runs. But from 40 to where he finished 76, 5 sixes he hit, 5 sixes, just 2 fours. And just, okay, go back to Hamilton. Again, I think, what was he, 3 4, 3 sixes. It's some really good hitting, but it wasn't slogging. There was nothing dirty. Everything was where it was almost supposed to go. And that's the thing about good players. They hit shots. They hit the ball where it's supposed to go. They work out if it's in the air or along the ground. And those two really impressed me today. They were the serious talents.
And just one more point quick about Jones. He just scored his maiden ODI century for USA earlier this month in Scotland. And I just flipped back through my notepad to get that innings. He scored his first 50 off of 56 balls, and then that came up in the 42nd over, and then he went from 50 to 100 in another 26 balls. It only took him another 26 to score that 6 and 50 to go for 100, and then in the 50th over of that innings in Aberdeen, he was on 97 off 81 going into the final over, and then the final over against Adrian Neal, 6.66.242. So he's clearly got this in him. He just chooses not to.
Or he just really doesn't like tall bowlers because Adrian Neal is about 6'11".
Both of them get in wonderful positions, really good hitting positions. They're not trying to bully it, not trying to muscle it. They just get into good hitting positions, give themselves the best base, and then you've got so many options after that.
Yeah, I thought on this particular pitch, the players who kept a slightly better shape, it wasn't an easy pitch where you could muscle balls or slog. You really did have to keep it in shape, and I thought both of them did that very well. Scoring 200. A lot of it has to come down to the bowling. New Jersey Stallions lost the plot early on. There was lots of mistakes there. But you have to give the Atlanta Fire so much credit for the way that they went about it. It was a tough pitch to bat on. In fact, all three of the other teams who batted struggled throughout the innings. Let's just go through to the next one. This is obviously going to be a podcast about the Atlanta Fire because they're going through to the final. But there was something in this PDP for the Stallions. Sai Makamula made a good composed innings, slightly quicker than he usually does. I know he averages around 30, but the way he played over cover and some of his shots, how old is he? He's, 17, 18?
He's 18, yeah. So he's born and raised in New Jersey. He just made his debut for USA in May or June, end of May, against Scotland, I believe it was. His ODI debut, his international debut, and he's somebody who was the player of the tournament MVP at the USA Under-19 National Championships last April in Texas. And for the last couple of years, he's been one of the most exciting prospects at junior level and as an emerging talent at senior level for USA. And earlier this year in April, against all these Major League Cricket players, they had this challenge series in Houston, and he was the leading run scorer in that series against top flight bowlers, some of the best bowlers in the country. And he's somebody who, again, is a very promising prospect going forward. He showcased some of what he can do in this match, but he's not somebody who's got genuinely that power game yet. He's more of a touch player, finesse player. he's skin and bones. He needs to put some meat on his bones. He needs to get it into a really good strength and conditioning fitness program. And once he develops that extra power, once he fills out his frame a bit more, when he gets into a situation like he did today, he will have that opportunity to start to go bigger and deeper and hit sixes more regularly in a situation like was required today. The required run rate today was just too much for him to really expand outside of his current limitations. But from a technical standpoint, he's got very good hands, and he's somebody who there's a lot being invested in him from a USA national team perspective. He's somebody who is worth keeping an eye on going forward for the next couple of years for USA.
Yeah, definitely. I was very impressed with him. It's funny on the bowlers, IOB, like there's a couple of bowlers with good figures there, like Nasser Hussain has good figures. Cornet Dry struggled. Some of the other bowlers struggled a little bit, but there was genuinely just wickets happening so often. It's not that the Atlanta Fire bowlers weren't exceptional. It's just that they were playing with such a good amount of runs that there was always so much extra pressure on the Stallions. And so even when the Stallions were batting well, they were losing wickets and they just kept falling too far behind, didn't they?
I don't really. You started listing a couple of bowlers there, and I was about to say, don't care, because all I want to talk about is Dyer. He's the only guy I want to talk about. What? That's just wonderful. That's someone to get around. That is a personality and a physique, and that's someone to get around. I enjoyed that, but absolutely, look, they bowled way better. They bowled so much better than the Stallions. So yes, they deserve it, but they also had the luxury of being able to get it wrong, and it didn't hurt the team, which means that you can stay calmer for longer. And if you stay calmer for longer, you make fewer mistakes. You make fewer mistakes, you have more success. And so with that sort of 8 inches of confidence that 200 run score gives you, yeah, you get to bowl with a bit more freedom. And they overall, right the way through, okay, Cornet, couple of tough overs at the top, but all the rest, they just bowl better overall. Interesting, though, that Dyer was the only quick bowler to really not get hurt. All the other quicks went for quite a few runs today. They were certainly the easier bowlers to hit right the way through both matches on the surface. I don't think any of the quicks necessarily got it right. And the two most experienced for the Stallions, Wig and Singh, two of the more experienced in the competition, bad days, really bad days on a surface that should have suited both of them. But Dyer loved it, just loved his enthusiasm. Wonderful, made me smile.
The problem with Jesse Singh, sorry, quick, just the problem with Jesse Singh is that he tends to be a one-pace bowler in USA uniform. He bowls in the high 70s, low 80 miles per hour, and he's just very one-pace. And you lock him in and you can time him, and that's what Aaron Jones did. It's very predictable, a lot of his bowling, especially at the death. He bowls one pace. He might try and go for Yorker, but it's one pace. He doesn't have variation in terms of cutters or off-speed deliveries or slower bounces or any of that stuff. And if he's locked into that one pace, you see what happens today. Aaron Jones just locks into that one pace. He gets his length wrong. He can't get the Yorker, and it turns into a half volley, and then it just disappears over mid-off or mid-on for six, and it just kept on happening and happening.
Yeah, and Evroy has natural pace variation built in because his action falls apart so much. You never know what he's going to do. Some slip through and some hit the pitch and absolutely stop. So, IB, here's a question for you. Which team do you think is better suited for the final when it comes to the pitch? So it's hard to tell because we know the pitch is going to be played at night. So we know maybe the ball will come on a little bit better than it does in the day. That's what Dane Pete told us and certainly looked that way when we were watching ourselves. Atlanta Fire, they made the big score, but Seattle Thunderbolts, I thought, played a really good game just on a slightly tougher wicket at times to score on. But which bowling attack or batting lineup do you think is probably going to be better suited if we see a similar pitch tomorrow night?
I think we see a similar pitch to what was played on tonight. I think you go with the stronger batting lineup, and I think you sort of look at how they approached the innings and the maturity, the composure, and then the success. I think it's very hard to look past the Fire for tomorrow's game. I just think they just showed more maturity and made fewer mistakes, and that paid off over the course of the match. I think the Thunderbolts have got a very good bowling attack. Not necessarily at their best today, and I think the Fire have got a very good bowling attack. I think the batting will just be, in terms of form, in terms of what I saw today, the Atlanta Fire were just so much better than any team today.
Yeah, that's fair. PDP, your prediction, who is going to win the final? And remember, you'll be held to this like you were held to the fact you said it wouldn't rain.
Well, I also said I thought if the Thunderbolts get more than 20 from Harmeet Singh, they would win. If the strikers had to hold him down to 20, he just got over it.
He squeezed it over for you.
Squeezed it over, and it was enough. And the Thunderbolts won today, having, I feel like they didn't even put in close to their best batting performance. This was a team that was scoring close to 200 last week against the Mustangs, and the fact that they were able to squeeze out a victory with their bowling, which is not their strong suit, and still get into the final.
And with Harmeet bowling poorly, which I think is the most important thing. That
both sides of the ball.
Star bowler.
Both sides of the ball. He had a poor day, or not up to his standards. He wasn't explosive or didn't stay long enough at the crease to showcase his full explosiveness. And with the ball, his last 2 overs in particular were terrible, and they still won. So if they get a better performance all around from some of their bigger names like him, I think they'll win.
That's a really good point. Winning culture. They know how to win. They've won the last 5 games, I think, on the bounce, and yeah, they have that ability to win from tough positions, and they've done it a couple of times. So I like that, but I still see the strength with the Atlanta Fire. I'm happy to be wrong.
It's really interesting. So we've got PDP has gone Thunderbolts. We've got IOB has gone for the Fire. I like the idea that the Thunderbolts won without playing their best game, but I just feel that the Fire could have. I don't even think the Fire used a Pillar Aponzo or Everoy Dyer as well as they could have, and they didn't need to. So I think for me, I'm going with the Fire again, but it's going to be great to come back tomorrow and have a look. We're going to be calling it live on 99.94. We may allow Peter Della Penna to come back in. We haven't decided. Me and IOB will have a meeting when we wake up. It's 3:30 in the morning where we are. We just want to go to bed. What a great day of cricket on minor league cricket. And thanks for supporting 99.94, everyone who listened to live comms or to the podcast. And we'll see you again tomorrow.